Give me the keys! Give me the keys! Give me the keys!
Two strangers meet on a bus, a nurse and a comic book artist who strike up a conversation before a devastating crash. They wake up in their hometown, but something's terribly wrong. The entire place is completely empty. No people, no animals, nothing but eerie silence. Even worse, a mysterious black fog is slowly consuming the town from all sides, and they only have 3 days before it reaches them. What happened to everyone? And why are they the only ones left? The story begins on a quiet January night in 2012 with a bus journey through the countryside. Among the passengers are two strangers who couldn't be more different. Anna, a dedicated nurse returning home from vacation, and Freddie, an aspiring comic book artist with an artistic flair. Their paths cross when Anna drops her book, and Freddie picks it up, initiating what seems like a simple conversation between fellow travelers. They discover they live in the same small town called Pearl, practically on the same block. Freddie, clearly smitten, tries to charm Anna by sketching her portrait, showcasing his artistic talent while attempting to win her over. Anna feels a bit uncomfortable with Freddie's persistent attempts to hit on her, but there's something endearing about his earnest efforts. Just as their budding acquaintance begins to develop, their conversation is violently interrupted by a catastrophic bus accident. The vehicle is hit by another car, and the screen fades to black, plunging both the characters and audience into uncertainty. Anna awakens in her own home, feeling disoriented and confused. Looking at the clock, she realizes she's late for work and rushes to get ready. When she looks at herself in the mirror, she's shocked to notice significant changes. Her armpit hair has grown unusually long, suggesting a considerable passage of time that she can't account for. This detail, though seemingly minor, immediately signals that something is fundamentally wrong with her perception of time. As Anna prepares for work, she finds the town eerily deserted. When she arrives at the hospital where she works, the building is completely empty, devoid of staff, patients, and any signs of life. The phones and televisions aren't working, security camera screens show only gray static, and the only sound comes from a barely intelligible audio recording. That recording shows the date as March 13th, which doesn't match Anna's memory at all, adding to her growing confusion and fear. Freaked out by the complete absence of life, Anna begins wandering around the city in her car, desperately knocking at various houses and searching for any signs of civilization. Her search proves fruitless. She can't find anyone, not even bugs flying around or birds in the sky. The silence is absolute and unnatural. Hoping this might all be some kind of nightmare, she decides to return home and try to sleep it off, praying that rest might somehow reset this surreal experience. However, her attempt at peaceful sleep is shattered when she's awakened in the middle of the night by extremely loud music emanating from a few houses down the road. Investigating the source of the disturbance, Anna is surprised to discover that Freddie is the one playing the music. He remembers her from the bus encounter just as clearly as she remembers him. Like Anna, Freddie hasn't been able to find another living soul in the entire town, confirming that this strange situation isn't just affecting her alone. Realizing they're facing this mysterious predicament together, Anna and Freddie decide to visit the local police station, hoping to find answers or at least some form of communication with the outside world. Unfortunately, this building proves to be just as empty as everywhere else they've searched. All communication channels are completely down. No phones, radios, or internet connections work. Anna notices some pictures of an accident posted on a bulletin board that trigger uncomfortable flashbacks to a fire in her past, but she decides to push those disturbing memories aside for now, focusing on their immediate crisis. After Freddie grabs a gun from the police station, reasoning they might need it for self-defense against unknown threats, the pair gets into Anna's car and attempts to drive out of town. Anna is initially uneasy about Freddie carrying a weapon, but he reassures her it's necessary given their completely unpredictable situation. Their escape attempt is quickly thwarted when they discover every road leading out of Pearl is blocked by an impenetrable wall of dark, unnatural fog. When Freddie cautiously reaches out to touch this mysterious barrier, he immediately experiences an alarming physical reaction. The contact makes him feel violently sick, and a dark, bruise-like mark appears on his hand, visibly spreading across his skin. This critical moment confirms that the fog isn't just some harmless weather phenomenon or optical illusion. It's a tangible, dangerous force that directly affects their physical bodies. The discovery underscores just how trapped they truly are. Determined to find another way out, they try several different roads, but the situation remains the same everywhere they go. Worse still, Freddie begins to notice that this sinister fog is actually moving toward the city, slowly but steadily advancing inward from all directions. To get a better understanding of their predicament, they climb to the roof of a tall building and survey their surroundings. The view from above reveals the terrifying truth. The entire town of Pearl is completely surrounded by this dark fog on all borders, forming an impenetrable dome that's gradually shrinking. Returning to street level, they continue wandering through the deserted town, desperately searching for clues about what might have happened to everyone. During their exploration, Anna comes across a diner that hasn't been in business since she was a child, a place that should have been demolished years ago. When they cautiously enter the establishment, they're amazed to find it full of people, but these individuals seem to exist in a completely different reality. None of the patrons can see or hear Anna and Freddie, as if they're invisible ghosts observing from another dimension. Freddy notices that people have suddenly appeared outside the diner as well, so he steps out to investigate further. However, he remains completely invisible to these mysterious figures. A promotional flyer catches his attention, advertising a carnival coming to town, an event he distinctly remembers from his childhood. Meanwhile, inside the diner, Anna makes an even more shocking discovery. She finds her younger self having what appears to be a birthday meal with her beloved Aunt Lou, while young Anna writes enthusiastically in a notebook full of stories. Overcome with emotion, Anna attempts to reach out and touch her aunt, but the moment she makes contact, the entire illusion shatters like glass. The diner returns to its empty, present-day state, and all the people vanish. However, one thing becomes crystal clear from this experience. For those brief, vivid moments, both Anna and Freddy had somehow traveled back in time to 1992, witnessing scenes from their own past with startling clarity and detail. Shaken by this supernatural experience, Freddy and Anna sit down to compare their information and try to make sense of what's happening to them.
I got fallen asleep there the night before, only I woke up with a full beard.
Just like Anna, Freddy had awakened after the bus accident to find himself in his own bed, but with significant physical changes. He now sported a full beard that definitely wasn't there before the crash. Anna initially wonders if there might have been some kind of mass evacuation that they somehow missed, but that theory doesn't explain the dramatic hair growth they've both experienced. Determined to understand the timeline they're working with, Freddy grabs a tape measure and returns to the mysterious fog barrier. Through careful calculation, he determines the rate at which the dark wall is advancing toward the center of town. His mathematical assessment reveals a chilling conclusion: the fog will completely cover the entire city in a little less than 3 days. This gives them an extremely limited window to figure out what's happening and find a way to escape. With this deadline looming over them, they grab a detailed map of the area and systematically visit every road leading out of town. Their goal is to calculate which location will remain safe longest, providing them with the best possible refuge during their final hours. By the time they complete this grim survey, the sky is already growing noticeably darker because the advancing fog is beginning to block out the sun, creating an artificial twilight that adds to the oppressive atmosphere. Needing supplies for whatever ordeal lies ahead, they break into a local grocery store and gather essential items while discussing their limited options. Anna suggests they might try escaping through the sewer system, though neither of them feels particularly optimistic about that plan. As they strategize, Anna begins voicing a terrifying possibility that's been growing in her mind. Perhaps they're both actually dead, and this strange reality is some form of afterlife or purgatory. Freddy acknowledges that death is certainly a possibility they need to consider, but he also suggests alternative explanations. Maybe they're trapped in an alternate dimension, a parallel universe, or some other form of supernatural limbo. Their philosophical discussion is interrupted when Anna suddenly remembers the audio recording she'd heard at the hospital earlier. She insists they return to the medical facility so she can play it for Freddy, sensing it might contain crucial information. Back at the hospital, Freddy manages to rewind the barely audible recording, and they strain to listen as a couple of doctors discuss the medical condition of a patient who has been unconscious for approximately 2 months. The physicians are debating what to do next, since there hasn't been any measurable progress in the patient's condition. They agree to wait 3 more days as a final opportunity for recovery, but if there aren't any positive signs by then, they'll be forced to discontinue life support and let the patient pass away naturally. The conversation becomes even more significant when the doctors specifically refer to their patient as Anna, a detail that can't possibly be a coincidence. Freddy immediately rushes toward the wing of the hospital where Anna explains they typically house comatose patients. In one of the rooms, he discovers a heart monitor displaying an extremely high heart rate, far above normal levels. With a theory beginning to form in his mind, Freddy asks Anna to sit down and focus on calming herself. As she relaxes and controls her breathing, the numbers on the monitor gradually decrease, directly responding to her emotional state. They quickly search for another room equipped with a functioning heart monitor, and Anna confirms that this second device is perfectly matching Freddy's current heart rate, fluctuating in real time with his physical condition. The implications of this discovery are impossible to ignore. Both monitors are somehow connected to their actual bodies, which means they've both been unconscious and hospitalized for the past 2 months as a direct result of the bus crash. This revelation explains everything that had been confusing them. The dramatic hair growth, the lost time, the empty town, it all makes perfect sense now. The barely intelligible recording they heard was actually the voices of real doctors discussing Anna's medical condition in her hospital room, transmitted somehow into this strange dimension where their consciousness currently exists. The advancing darkness that will consume the town in 3 days represents the deadline the doctors set before disconnecting Anna's life support systems. Understanding that they need to wake up from their comas to survive, and believing that their only path back to reality lies through the mysterious fog, Anna and Freddy gather flashlights and courageously venture into the dark barrier. Fighting through intense feelings of nausea and disorientation, they slowly make their way through the supernatural mist. The journey is physically and mentally exhausting, but they persevere until they finally emerge into a small, fog-free clearing. In this mystical space, they discover an imposing stone door standing alone, illuminated by a single flickering candle. The sight strikes Freddy as incredibly familiar, though he can't immediately place where he might have seen it before. Scattered across the ground around the door are thousands upon thousands of keys, creating a seemingly impossible puzzle. Freddy randomly selects one key and attempts to unlock the door, but it doesn't fit, and he quickly realizes that finding the correct key among so many could take forever. While Freddy contemplates this overwhelming challenge, Anna makes a disturbing discovery nearby. She finds a large rock with heavy chains attached to it, and when they investigate more closely, the chains suddenly move with violent force as a terrifying roar echoes through the darkness surrounding their small clearing. The sound is absolutely inhuman, filled with rage and hunger, suggesting that something monstrous is restrained here but still capable of reaching them. Anna and Freddy immediately flee back to their car, but the creature isn't finished with them. As they reach their vehicle, Freddy grabs the gun he'd taken from the police station and tries to locate the monster in the darkness, hoping to defend them both. Suddenly, the heavy chains appear slithering across the ground like metal snakes, and one wraps around Freddy's ankle, beginning to drag him away from safety toward whatever horror awaits in the shadows. Freddy manages to grab onto the car and uses his free foot to push against the chain with all his strength, fighting desperately to break free from the creature's grasp. After a terrifying struggle, he succeeds in loosening the chain enough to escape, and both he and Anna quickly drive away from the nightmarish scene, returning to the relative safety of the deserted town to regroup and plan their next move. After stopping at a store to gather more supplies and weapons more powerful than a simple handgun, they decide that since all the roads are blocked by the supernatural fog, they should attempt to escape using the waterways. Freddy leads Anna to his childhood home, hoping to find an old family boat that might still be seaworthy. As they approach the house, they're surprised to see lights glowing inside, indicating that another supernatural event is about to occur. Once again, they find themselves transported back to 1992, this time witnessing young Freddy alone in his room, drawing a comic book that he's titled Beyond the Veil. His stepfather enters and attempts to bond with the isolated boy, mentioning that Freddy had experienced some trouble at school and offering to spend quality time together having fun. However, young Freddy turns down the invitation, preferring the solitary comfort of his artistic creations. As soon as this memory concludes, Anna and Freddy return to their present-day reality and locate the boat they need. As they row down the river, attempting to find a water route that isn't blocked by the mysterious fog, Freddy opens up about his deep love for comics and how they served as his primary escape mechanism throughout a difficult childhood. In return, Anna shares her own backstory, revealing that she originally wanted to become a professional writer. She explains that she was raised by her beloved Aunt Lou, who had tragically been involved in a serious accident that left her spending the final year of her life wasting away unconscious in a hospital bed. This traumatic experience is what motivated Anna to abandon her writing dreams and pursue nursing instead, hoping to help other families avoid the pain she endured. She also mentions that witnessing her aunt's prolonged suffering is why she has a living will that specifically authorizes doctors to disconnect life support in case she ever falls into a coma. She never wants to end up like Aunt Lou, trapped between life and death for months or years. Unfortunately, after rowing for quite some time, they discover that the river route is also completely blocked by the impenetrable black fog, leaving them with no choice but to return to town and seek alternative solutions. Deciding it's not safe to separate under these dangerous circumstances, they agree to spend the night together at Anna's house for mutual protection and support. However, in the middle of the night, Freddy suddenly remembers something crucial and rushes back to his childhood home despite the potential dangers. There, he locates his old Beyond the Veil comic book and makes an astounding discovery. The illustrations he drew as a child perfectly depict the mysterious stone door they found in the fog, complete with all the scattered keys on the ground. Even more incredible, the date he originally drew this comic exactly matches Anna's birthday, which is the same day as the memory they witnessed at the diner. Realizing that both of them attended the local carnival on that significant day in 1992, they decide to visit that area of town immediately, hoping to uncover more clues about their strange connection. When they arrive at the carnival grounds, they find the event is somehow still occurring, but frozen in time at that specific day in 1992, allowing them to observe their younger selves and understand how their paths first crossed. They watch as young Anna celebrates her birthday at the carnival with Aunt Lou, enjoying the festivities and planning the theatrical performance they'll put on later that evening. Meanwhile, young Freddy is hanging out with a group of kids who constantly bully him for being a nerdy comic book enthusiast. These cruel children dare him to enter a supposedly haunted house as a twisted form of entertainment, mocking his fears and insecurities. As both groups prepare to leave the carnival, young Freddy and Anna accidentally bump into each other in the crowd. They barely get a chance to glance at one another before the flow of people carries them in different directions. But this brief collision represents the first time their destinies intersected, setting up everything that would follow years later. Once this powerful memory concludes and they return to their 2012 reality, Anna experiences a devastating realization. She understands that the first flashback she experienced after the bus crash, the memory of acting out her story with Aunt Lou, occurred immediately after their return from the carnival. During that innocent theatrical performance, Anna had accidentally knocked over a candle while setting up the scene, starting a devastating fire that injured Aunt Lou so severely it put her into the coma that would eventually claim her life. The guilt from this childhood accident has haunted Anna for years, and no matter how much Freddy tries to convince her it was simply a tragic accident, she continues to blame herself for her aunt's suffering and death. Their emotional conversation is suddenly interrupted by the terrifying sound of the monster approaching their location. forcing them to abandon their discussion and run for immediate shelter. They seek refuge in the local school building, with the creature following them inside. However, they quickly discover that the monster can't pursue them very far because it's still restrained by the length of the heavy chain around its neck. While they hide behind a table, Freddy carefully peers through a small hole and makes a crucial observation. Embedded in the monster's chest is the exact key they need to open the stone door in the fog. Realizing this might be their only opportunity to obtain the key, Freddy decides to try shooting the monster with the gun they took from the police station. While his bullet does manage to hit the creature, it only grazes its body without causing significant damage. However, the gunshot does succeed in scaring the beast away temporarily, giving them a brief respite to plan their next move. The pair returns to Anna's house, where Freddy uses his mathematical skills to calculate the exact length of the monster's chain, allowing them to determine which areas of town remain safe from its reach. During this time, Anna retrieves her old notebook containing the story she wrote as a child, and they make a shocking discovery. The monster that's been hunting them is identical to the creature she created in her childhood fiction. This revelation leads them to understand that their current reality is somehow a mixture of both their creative endeavors from the past. Anna's story includes the monster that's been terrorizing them, while Freddy's comic book featured the mysterious door and scattered keys. However, Anna's childhood story doesn't include specific instructions on how to destroy the creature. She had only written that a knight killed it without providing any details about the method. Refusing to give up, Freddy develops a plan to trap and eliminate the monster using supplies they can gather from various abandoned stores around town. He creates an elaborate trap by placing 2 department store mannequins in the middle of the street, stuffing them with raw meat to make the creature believe they're actual people. Between these decoys, he constructs a homemade explosive device designed to kill the monster when it approaches. Anna and Freddy position themselves on a nearby rooftop to wait and observe. When the monster finally appears and moves toward what it thinks are potential victims, Freddy attempts to detonate the bomb by pulling a cord, but the mechanism fails to work properly. They realize they'll have to trigger the explosion by shooting the device directly, but their first few attempts miss the target entirely. The gunshots scare the monster, causing it to begin retreating from the area. By the time one of their shots finally hits the explosive device, the creature has moved too far away for the blast to reach it effectively. Even worse, the explosion manages to break the chain that had been restraining the monster, completely freeing it to roam anywhere in the town without limitation. With the dark fog rapidly approaching the center of the city and the monster now able to hunt them anywhere, Anna and Freddy's situation becomes desperate. They quickly retrieve a bag of essential supplies from Anna's house, then seek shelter in the local movie theater, hoping the building might provide adequate protection. Unfortunately, the monster tracks them down even there, forcing them to abandon that hiding spot and run to the town church instead. They manage to lock the heavy church door behind them using a wooden cross as a barricade, then sit down to rest and catch their breath. In this moment of relative safety, Anna takes the opportunity to apologize to Freddy for not accepting his invitation for a date back when they first met on the bus. Encouraged by her openness, Freddy attempts to confess something important to her, but just as he's about to speak, Anna begins experiencing severe physical distress. She starts throwing up violently and trembling with intense pain, clearly indicating that her real body in the hospital is deteriorating rapidly. Freddy can't bear the thought of watching Anna die, so despite her protests, he makes the brave but dangerous decision to leave the church and confront the monster directly. He tells Anna firmly not to follow him, knowing that this might be their only chance to obtain the key and escape this nightmare dimension. Worried about Freddy's safety and unable to simply wait and hope, Anna disobeys his instructions and ventures outside just in time to witness a horrific sight. She sees the monster dragging Freddy's badly injured body away into the darkness. Apparently having defeated him in their confrontation. Devastated by the apparent loss of her only companion and ally, Anna breaks a broom to create a wooden stake for self-defense, though she feels utterly alone and hopeless. Seeking comfort in her final hours, Anna returns to her childhood home to relive one last memory from that fateful day in 1992. She witnesses herself and Aunt Lou performing the story she had written, acting out the scenes with candles placed around the room to create the proper atmospheric lighting. During this flashback, the full truth about the fire is finally revealed in devastating detail. Anna's house had originally been used as a hospital during the Civil War, and local children considered it haunted because of all the deaths that occurred there over the years. On that day in 1992, Freddy's bullies had dared him to approach the haunted house and make some noise to prove his courage.
I'm gonna hit him.
Bullcrap. You cannot hit that from here.
Young Freddy had intended to hit the wind chimes hanging outside with a thrown rock, but his aim was terrible, and the stone crashed through the window instead, knocking over the candles that Anna and her aunt had arranged for their performance. This means that the fire that put Aunt Lou into a coma and eventually killed her wasn't Anna's fault at all. It was actually caused by young Freddy's unintentional action. The guilt that has tormented Anna for years was based on a misunderstanding of what really happened that night. As this memory ends and she returns to the present, Anna is shocked to find Freddy stumbling toward the house, bleeding heavily but still alive. With his remaining strength, Freddy apologizes profusely to Anna for his role in Aunt Lou's death, finally understanding the full scope of the tragedy he inadvertently caused. He suggests that they're probably trapped in this dimension specifically to deal with their respective guilt and find a way to forgive themselves and each other. Just as this emotional conversation concludes, the monster appears inside the house, having tracked them to their final refuge. After sharing one last embrace with the now unconscious Freddy, Anna stands up to face the creature that has been hunting them. She tells the beast that she's no longer afraid of it.
I'm not afraid of you.
Recognizing that it represents her own guilt and self-blame manifested in physical form. The monster attacks her with savage fury, but Anna fights back with newfound courage and determination. After a fierce struggle, Anna manages to drive the broken broom handle deep into the creature's body, finally killing the manifestation of her guilt and fear. She then retrieves the precious key from the monster's chest and returns to Freddy just as the black fog reaches the center of town, entering the house through the windows and signaling that their time has almost run out. Suddenly, Anna and Freddy find themselves transported back to the mysterious stone door in the fog-covered clearing. Anna inserts the key into the lock and it fits perfectly, but when she tries to turn it, the door still refuses to open. Just then, a drop of Freddy's blood floats mysteriously toward the lock mechanism, and Anna realizes what's needed. They both must touch the key simultaneously to activate it. She carefully guides Freddy's unconscious hand to the key alongside her own, and together they turn it. The door finally swings open, revealing a brilliant white light beyond. As Anna steps through the portal, she's immediately transported back to reality, gasping for breath as she awakens from her coma in her hospital bed, finally free from the nightmare dimension. Still deeply worried about Freddy's condition, Anna immediately searches for him, only to discover that he has already been discharged from the hospital. Once she's properly recovered and released herself, she goes to Freddy's house, where she's greeted by his caretaker. The news is both heartbreaking and hopeful. Freddy survived the bus crash but is now wheelchair-bound and suffers from severe amnesia. The only thing he clearly remembers is their initial meeting on the bus. However, Freddy has been experiencing incredibly vivid dreams at night that allow him to see fragments of suppressed memories, and when he wakes up, he compulsively sketches these images. Looking at his drawings, Anna is amazed to confirm that their shared experience in the coma-induced dimension actually happened. Every detail is perfectly captured in his artwork. Determined to help Freddy recover his memories, Anna grabs the portrait he drew of her on the bus and shows it to him, pointing out that the woman in the drawing is her. This visual trigger allows Freddy to experience sudden flashes of their time together in the other dimension, their struggles, their courage, their mutual forgiveness, and the deep emotional bond they formed while fighting for their lives. As the memories flood back to him, Freddy finally remembers everything they went through together. The two embrace passionately, their love representing not just romantic connection but mutual healing and redemption. Their shared ordeal has transformed them both, teaching them to confront their darkest fears, forgive themselves for past mistakes, and find hope even in the most desperate circumstances. The story concludes with Anna and Freddy forever changed by their haunting yet transformative experience. Through confronting the manifestations of their guilt and trauma, finding the courage to forgive themselves and each other, and working together to overcome seemingly impossible obstacles, they've not only reclaimed their lives but discovered a profound connection that transcends the boundaries between life and death, consciousness and dreams, guilt and redemption.